Hello and welcome to our webinar, Introducing Pearson's Digital Assessment Library. Our presenter today is Lindsay Simas, our Pearson Solutions Analyst and National Licensing Specialist. This webinar is being presented in broadcast audio. Please turn up your computer speakers to hear the audio. If you have dialed in, all phone lines have been muted to omit any background noise. If you're having any connectivity issues, or audio issues, please click on the question mark in the top right-hand side of your computer screen within this app for assistance. And please type any questions that you have into the chat box. With that being said, I'll turn it over to Lindsay.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for taking time today to listen to this brief presentation on the Digital Assessment Library for Schools. As Sherry mentioned, my name is Lindsay Simas, and I'm a Solutions Analyst with Pearson. So we're going to talk about the Digital Assessment Library for Schools today. And this was introduced just over 2 years ago to offer school districts with over 500 IEPs a wide range of assessments with a really significantly reduced need for platform management. So we spent a lot of time talking to school districts and trying to understand some of the challenges that people were facing when they're placing orders with Pearson. So some of the things that we heard were difficulty managing subscriptions, monitoring usages, dealing with varying expiration dates throughout the year, ordering and renewing licenses on Q Global and Q Interactive, and determining how many subtests are needed for Q Interactive. Additionally, procurement departments and IT departments can complicate the ordering process. So after hearing about some of these challenges, we thought to ourselves, how can we simplify these processes and make this ongoing year-round responsibility of ordering, inventory management, and annual budgeting easier for everyone? So the solution that we came up with was this Digital Assessment Library licensing model. This Digital Assessment Library, or DALS as we call it, provides unlimited access at a single flat rate for two of our digital systems, which are called Q Interactive and Q Global. So looking at this next slide, what has technology brought to assessment? I think most of us would probably agree that technology has really changed the way that we're working in education. It's helped us improve the services that we provide to students and families. And two of the widely used platforms that are available through Pearson are Q Interactive and Q Global. So Q Interactive is our iPad-based assessment platform, whereas Q Global is our web-based administration and scoring platform. So as you'll see outlined here, clinicians who use Q Interactive really frequently indicate that they see students are more engaged when they're using iPads during assessments. In addition, Q Interactive can help clinicians to gain more accurate results by reducing the likelihood of human error during administration and scoring. When compared to paper and pencil administration of tests, on average, practitioners report that Q Interactive helps save about 30 to 35% of time. So digital manuals are also available through Q Interactive, and they can be accessed at any time from any location as long as the clinician has a Wi-Fi connection. And they don't have to carry around those heavy test kits anymore. They just have their iPad, which contains all of the assessments that are on Q Interactive. For administrators, the benefits of Q Interactive include easier inventory management. You have fewer paper protocols, greater staff productivity since assessment time is really cut down. And if needed, actual student protocols can always be printed within seconds from Q Interactive. I get that question a lot. So on this slide, you can see the current pricing approach. You can see how Pearson tests are currently purchased. So whether you're considering or using Q Interactive, Q Global, or paper pencil assessments, you can see that there's a number of options and steps required when placing an order. With the Digital Assessment Library, the goal was to really simplify this process and create a very wide library of assessments for which clinicians can select from that's just unlimited to subscribers of the DALS. So in addition to purchasing challenges, These platforms require some administrative management. For example, licenses might expire during different times of the year, so administrators need to keep tabs on these dates to make sure that staff has access to these tests when they need it. Paper kits require some administrative management because administrators need to keep track of the number of tests that they have available for staff, revision dates, making sure there's enough record forms that have been ordered for the staff. And, as many of you know, I'm sure these things can be difficult to predict. So with this unlimited nature of the digital assessment library, you don't need to purchase individual licenses, usage, or inventory, and you always get the latest test revision as soon as it is published. So when developing this digital assessment library for schools, we really wanted to provide a solution that could simplify the purchasing process, that would promote this move to digital assessment, and then improve the use of some of Pearson assessments that are maybe used a little less frequently and really offer a wide array of tests that people can choose from based on the referral question. So the feedback from school districts did seem to support this all-inclusive flat rate pricing model, which would allow clinicians to focus more on the time that they're providing services to students and less time dealing with the ordering and management of different platforms. So after lots of research, we decided that the best way to price this licensing model was to use the number of IEPs within a school district. The reason is that this number is reliable and it's relatively consistent for schools from year to year. So one of the reasons is that every school district in the country has to report the number of IEPs that they have in place at both the state and federal level. One important thing to note is that users of the digital assessment library are not limited to testing only students with IEPs. The district can use any of the assessments available in the digital assessment library to test students for whom the student's responsible. So this might include initial assessments, evaluating students who don't actually end up qualifying for special education services, students who are homeschooled, students who attend local charter schools, maybe students who are referred for gifted and talented program. I see the SSIS-SEL used in general education at times. So the digital assessment library, it can be used by any of the staff in the district. And if you add new people throughout the school year, the cost still remains the same. So people who we generally see using the digital assessment library are school psychologists, speech language pathologists, school social workers, occupational therapists, physical therapists, diagnosticians, and then special education teachers who give some academic achievement tests. So currently this library has over 40 assessments that I'm going to review briefly in just a moment here. Practitioners have unlimited access to these assessments. And then, as I mentioned earlier, they gain the latest revision as soon as it's released. So this means when a new test is revised and released, they'll be able to access the test without incurring any additional cost. Administrators who oversee budgets tend to really like the fact that this helps make spending more balanced and predictable from one year to the next year. And really the only fluctuating variable is the number of IEPs that district may have from year to year. So let's take a look at the assessments that are included with the digital assessment library. So as you can see on this slide, there's a number of tests that can be used across the special education department. We have assessments that assess cognitive ability, academic achievement, social emotional learning, behavior, speech and language skills, motor and sensory skills. Some of the newer measures on this list include you'll see the KBC normative update, the SSIS social emotional learning edition, the RAP-5, the Brown executive functioning and attention scales, the PPVT-5 and EVT-3. So some of these measures, like the Wechsler scales and the KTEA, are available on Q Interactive with that iPad-based assessment, while other measures like the KBC2NU are only available through Q Global. So some measures like the SELF, the Goldman-Bristow, the PPVT, they can be accessed through both Q Interactive or Q Global because there's digital stimulus books and manuals available on Q Global. On this slide, you'll see there's several assessments that can be administered to examine executive functioning and memory. In addition, we have some personality measures that can be used with adolescents. On a side note, I recognize that these are not used all the time within school settings, but these personality measures don't actually impact the pricing of the digital assessment library. We included them and are really looking for feedback to see if these measures are an added benefit for users as a whole. In my personal experience as a school psychologist, I've seen an increase in the use of these personality measures for really complex school evaluations or when threat assessments are asked to be performed. On this slide, you'll see that the DALS also includes 4 screeners: the WISC-III BEST, the SSIS-SEL screener and progress monitoring, the RAVENS-2, which is a nonverbal, unbiased intellectual assessment, and then the Shaywitz dyslexia screen. So these are the only tests that are not unlimited like all of the other assessments. So people who purchase the digital assessment library do have access to these tools if they want them. However, the number of usages is equal to the number of IEPs in the school district. So the reason that is for this is that Q Global really isn't intended to be used for universal screening. We do have better technology, better platforms, better options available for school-wide universal screening. However, we did receive feedback that clinicians wanted to have access to these measures to assist in the evaluation process. And the Q Global platform does allow for digital administration, scoring, and reporting for these screeners you see. So let's dive a little bit deeper into the 2 platforms that make up the digital assessment library. So first, what is Q Interactive? This is technology that enables clinicians to actually administer individually administered tests like the WISC-V using 2 iPads. So this means that you need 2 iPads to administer a wide range of tests as opposed to having a bunch of different, heavy paper test kits. A lot of clinicians have reported that these assessments can be more targeted because Q Interactive actually provides immediate subtest scores after a subtest is completed. So on the WISC-V, after you give block design, you get that scaled score right away, and then you can tailor your assessment on the fly as needed after you're seeing how that student is performing. So another important feature of Q Interactive is that Wi-Fi is not needed during the evaluation process. So instead, the 2 iPads, they do communicate to each other through Bluetooth. This ensures that the clinician can test students even if internet is unavailable or unreliable. And I know that's a really important thing for many people to hear. Over the last 5 years, Q Global has really grown in popularity because of all these different benefits that you see associated with digital assessment. So Q Global, alternatively, is Pearson's web-based platform that is used to score assessments. It's also used to administer assessments that are available as a questionnaire or rating scale, like the WISC-III, the Vineland-III, the Beck Youth Inventories, the Sensory Profile 2, the Brown Executive Functioning and Attention Scales, the SSIS-SEL. Another cool feature that's in Q Global is the ability to email a link to parents and teachers when they need to complete a rating scale. And this can really save a lot of time. So you don't need to go hunt down the rating scale in the teacher's mailbox and then, or track it down from the parent. You don't have to worry about those paper forms when you email it out. One of the features that Digital Assessment Library subscribers like most is the ability to print rating scales. So the Digital Assessment Library is the only platform in which you can actually print these rating scales, and there's no need to order any of the paper forms like the WISC, Vineland, because people can print these directly from your Q Global account. So additionally, Q Global houses digital manuals, which can be accessed for all of the tests that are included in DALS. And then also there are stimulus books for many of the speech assessments. So the CEL-5, the Goldman-Fristow, the PPVT actually have stimulus books that can be used directly on your computer. eliminating the need for a stimulus book, and that's, again, within Q Global. So why did Pearson start using Q Global to house its scoring? You might recall a time when you had to upload a scoring CD or a thumb drive to access all the different scoring programs. This way of scoring is really becoming more and more obsolete. I know my computer doesn't even have a CD drive anymore. And then the newer versions of Windows, they don't support that older scoring technology over time. So Q Global, the scoring can be accessed at any time from any computer, tablet, smartphone, or other device that's connected to the internet. So you can use Q Global at any time, any location, as long as you do have Wi-Fi. So, of course, making the transition to something like the Digital Assessment Library does require some training. This is so that users can familiarize themselves with both Q Interactive and Q Global, understand everything they have access to, and feel really comfortable and confident using these. So, at Pearson, we do have dedicated people who are here to support you through that entire transition. So we have several training options that include complimentary video tutorials, pre-recorded web-based training, professional development offered by our solution analyst team. We also have a dedicated professional development team. So training can be provided in a lot of different ways. We have self-guided videos, user guides, live webinars. We offer in-person training. So we really have hundreds of hours of content and training that's been developed by our dedicated training team that will help support you both in platform as well as individual assessments. So, we're here to help you and work with you one-on-one to make the transition to the Digital Assessment Library. When districts do transition to the DALS, there's likely some new tests that staff wouldn't be familiar with, or maybe tests that they haven't used recently. In these cases, we do offer customizable content-specific training that can be delivered in a variety of different ways as well. So those pre-recorded webinars, live webinars, or in-person training. But we will work with you to find a solution that is compatible for the needs of your district. So far, a lot of the feedback that I've heard has been very positive for the Digital Assessment Library. In fact, I received an email recently that said, previously ordering and billing were enough to drive anyone crazy, and that the DALS is amazing, and she tells anyone who will listen about it. So it's pretty nice to hear that feedback, and we've gotten a lot of really positive feedback. Most people really like the simplicity of the ordering system, not having to manage the inventory. They appreciate the fact that when there's new employees, they don't need to call Pearson to order new usages, but instead they can just create a new login on their own for that person. Another thing to keep in mind is that if you do use contracted employees, you can use the Digital Assessment Library when that person is working with students in your school district. So how did we come up with the pricing for this Digital Assessment Library? We spent a lot of time examining how much, just breaking down what it costs a school district to administer and conduct an evaluation using our assessment materials. So what we did is we came up with 13 different referral questions that are commonly seen in schools. So here on this slide, you will see 2 referral questions. The first one is a reading disability battery, and the second is a developmental delay battery. So we looked at what a comprehensive evaluation typically costs, and then also what a triennial or 3-year evaluation generally costs to answer each of these 13 referral questions. So you can see that the initial evaluation cost, it's listed on the far left of each of these boxes, and then the reevaluation cost is listed in the middle. We considered the cost from the perspective of someone who uses Pearson-only products, and also from the perspective of people who might use assessments outside of what Pearson offers. So what we found is that the cost of materials, including record forms, response booklets, scoring, the test kits amortized over the course of 10 years, which is generally how frequently test kits are revised, we found that the average annual assessment cost per IEP is generally between $11.50 and $14.60. One thing to note, I think this is really important, is that when calculating this number, we assumed that psychologists were completing 38 evaluations per year. I know as a school psych, I completed significantly more than that, and SLPs were completing 20 evaluations per year. So in my opinion, I think this is on the lower end, but keep that in mind. These were some of the assumptions that were made when coming up with these costs. Also keep in mind that this cost doesn't account for the broad library with many, many choices for assessment instruments that are offered. It only represents assessments typically used for specific referral questions. So here is a slide that lists everything included with the digital assessment library. You'd have unlimited access to over 40 tests and screeners on both Q Interactive and Q Global. You receive ongoing training as needed and technical support. You have those printable forms for rating scales like the Brown, the Bass, the Vineland. You'd only need to submit one purchase order per year, which obviously helps facilitate that procurement process. You'd have a more predictable and more level spending from year to year. And the only variable that changes is the number of IEPs in your district as reported to the Office of Special Ed and Rehab Services. We also send you unlimited response booklets free of charge. That includes free shipping and handling. And then the total cost for the digital assessment library for schools is $15 per IEP. So on this slide, you can see an example of the historical spend for a specific school district. This is a school district with 866 IEPs, which you can see in the very top left-hand corner. We looked at what this district spent over the course of 7 years. You can see the sum at the top of the top bar on the screen, the top row, which is gray. One thing that jumps out about this district spend is that it really varied significantly from one year to the next year. This was most likely due to the release of new tests. You'll notice that this particular district also doesn't appear to be using any specific achievement tests like the KTEA from Pearson. So I want to point out that the district would have access to all of the 40-plus assessments that are part of the DALS, and they'd be able to choose what test is the most appropriate for the student that's being evaluated. When we ran the numbers for this specific district with this 866 IEPs, the estimated spend on products purchased from Pearson was $14.60, but then the estimated spend on products from other publishing companies, like those achievement tests, was about $4.12 per IEP. So in the end, for this specific school district, they were actually spending about $18.72 per IEP, which is more than the $15 price for the digital assessment library. If the district did move to DALS, they'd be spending about $12,990 annually. So while this is one case, it's not necessarily the situation in all districts. This is one example, but it reflects how we really analyzed the data and came up with the pricing. So with the digital assessment library, you get unlimited access to all of these assessments that you need to identify students with different referral questions. You get all the benefits that are associated with digital assessment, like the time savings and the accuracy. There's no additional charges based on the number of users, the test used, or the number of administrators. It's just that one flat rate from year to year. And finally, the digital assessment library really reduces inventory management and some of the headaches that go along with managing inventory. You don't have to worry about incurring additional costs for things like sending out extra basket rating scales to teachers or parents, for example. So is this digital assessment library the right choice for your school district? Well, if your district isn't ready to fully dive into the world of digital assessment here with Q Global and Q Interactive, we do have some smaller portfolios that offer unlimited access to a subset or a portfolio of the tools that we've talked about today. What we've been talking about is the complete library, but we have some more limited options available, which are the result of some different conversations that we had with school districts. For example, we have a specific cognitive ability library, an academic achievement library, a speech-specific library, a mental health library. That mental health library includes all of the social emotional tools and doesn't require iPads for administration. So there are also some TBD options at the bottom. Just related to Q Interactive, you do have to use iPads. Other devices like Androids or Chromebooks are not supported with Q Interactive at this time. But we are and have worked with different districts who have struggled to acquire iPads, and we've done things like build in and prorate the cost of iPads. So we can be flexible, and work with you to help figure out what solution might work best. So the last thing I want to highlight before wrapping up and taking some questions is a new addition to the Digital Assessment Library. This is called the Digital Assessment Library Plus, or DALS Plus for short. The DALS Plus, this is a good option for school districts who would like to continue to purchase some select paper pencil kits. So you'd get everything that we've talked about today, plus the 18 tests that you see listed on this slide. So these are tests that are not available in digital format. They're paper forms. With the DALS Plus, you get free record forms and response booklets for all these tests throughout the year anytime you need them. And then you get the actual test kit at a 65% discount. So if you do utilize tests on this slide or you're interested in using them, it's a great way to receive unlimited materials throughout the year, and then the free shipping and handling, and that's $2 extra on top of that $15 per IEP price. So that's all I have for today, but I'm happy to stay and answer some questions. I do see a couple questions here in the chat box. The first one is there a demo that can be viewed for the online administration of the WISC-III and WISC-V? So there is a Q Interactive tutorial video. This is a great 45-minute video that really demonstrates how to use Q Interactive, what it looks like in real life. So I can send that link if you send me an email. My email is actually listed on the bottom of the screen here. If you send me that, I can send you the link to the YouTube videos. And then in addition, one thing to note is that when you're logged into Q Interactive, and there is a free trial that's available on pearsonassessments.com where you can sign up for a free trial with access to these tests. But when you're in Q Interactive, there is a support tab, and within this support tab, there's actually demonstrations of each individual subtest on Q Interactive. So for the WISC-V, you can look at block design, you can look at vocabulary, and it's actually a Q Interactive demo that's built into the Q Interactive platform. That's qiactive.com. It says, my subscription, this is the next question, my subscription is about to expire for Q Interactive, but I think I have some time left on my Q Global. Would I get any credit for that remaining time? The answer to that is yes. So if you have Q Interactive or Q Global, we do offer you a credit for any unused digital tests. So say you've got some usages left in Q Global, or you've got some subtests left in Q Interactive, we will refund you for that. Additionally, if you have licenses or subscriptions, we will prorate that and refund you for the time left on those subscriptions. The next question, can multiple users sign on to the same iPads? Yes, they can. Ideally, clinicians would have their own iPads, and that's just so the convenience of always having those assessments on hand for that person. However, you can certainly share iPads because you log in using your own unique login and password. So you just download the Q Interactive app from the iPad the Apple Store, and then you can actually enter your own unique username. So you could have clinicians sharing and entering their own username, and that way they're only seeing their own test sessions. Let me see if there's any more questions here. I don't see anything else at this time. So we are right here at 10 o'clock. Again, please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. My contact information is on the screen. So thank you, everyone, for your time today. I hope this was helpful for you. Please feel free to reach out if you have any questions. Thank you, and take care.